The Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 1059 The Zone, is brought to you by Ice Cold, Tito's Handmade Vodka with an orange slice. Sounds good, doesn't it? This afternoon on the patio. ESPN 1059 The Zone, we welcome in Mike Detillier, LSU insider. Bama and LSU. Last 7 games, there's been 95 players who were drafted. 51 from Bama, 44 from LSU. And this is what it's all about, Saturday night, Death Valley. Mike, how confident is that LSU offensive staff that Danny Etling can make 3 or 4 plays with his arm on Saturday night?
He better make more than 3 or 4 plays. I mean, listen, they're a confident group. And you've heard some comments made by Dwayne Thomas, Leonard Fournette, and they just echoing the coach here, who's trying to put that positive reinforcement in their head. Now, that's a lot easier said than done because everybody who's went up against Bama has had the same sort of comments, and they found out just how tough it is. Ole Miss has given them the toughest role, so to speak, and for whatever reason, Ole Miss has matched up well with them the last 3 years. But, Danny's going to have to make 8 to 10 big plays in this game, either with his feet or with his arm. He can't do just 3 or 4. That's not going to work against that defense. The other part is the last 5 games LSU has played against Alabama, they have not scored more than 17 points. And listen, you ain't winning squat against Alabama if you're not scoring more than 17 points. And that has been a major issue, that they just have not, ever since that, kind of baseball game that they played in Tuscaloosa a few years back, they just haven't been able to put points on the board. And when you're going to play that defense, and that offense is explosive, they're going to hit a couple of plays on you. You got to score more than 2 touchdowns and a field goal. But I think they feel very confident they can hit on some big plays. And it'll be totally different from in the past when we've had former Alabama players, in particular, Ashawn Robinson, Jarvin Reed, tell us in training that last year, the same plays they saw as freshmen, they saw as juniors. Nothing LSU ran was a surprise to them. And they didn't play 8 men in the box. I keep reading and hearing all this, but my breakdown of the game a year ago, when they stopped Fournette, they were in base 4-3 or 3-4, however you want to put it, in 7 men up front, almost 75% of the time. So that's a fallacy that they had extra men in the box. Alabama's good enough. When you're going to run the same play, they don't need an extra man in the box when they know what you're doing.
Mike Detillier, LSU insider, Bama LSU Saturday night, and I can't wait. Should be a good one. Steve Ensminger, so he's the new offensive coordinator. Do you think he gets real creative? I mean, everything is on the table this week, and like you said, they're not going to be near as predictable as they have been the last 5 or 6 times they played Bama?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that Steve realizes, that you can't change that playbook totally. There's no way. You've run this from spring training and the fall drills, the first couple games of the season. You can't change everything. But you can sort of tweak what you have, and a lot of the same plays that were being called with Les is being done here, but out of a different formation. In essence, they're spread the field out, 3 wideouts. We see the tight end flanked out that we hadn't seen much before. They were keeping the tight end almost like another tackle. So they're going to give you some different looks, and they realize, as well as anyone, that if you don't put people in a position to question what you're going to do offensively, you're going to get caught in the same trap you've been caught into the last 5 years. Now, I think the big question is, are you good enough offensive and defensive line to win? I think that's the key. As big a key as what's going to happen with Jalen, what's going to happen with Danny, I think to watch is going to be the trench game. can LSU's middle stop Alabama's running game? Alabama's had great success running the football on LSU right up the gut, not on the edges. They know LSU's got athleticism that can run the field well. But Alabama has played kind of, I'll knock a snot bubble at you and run the football right up the gut. And LSU's had difficulty stopping that. The other thing, too, is how LSU's offensive tackles match up going up against Jonathan Allen, Timmy Williams.
Ooh.
You don't think Tim Williams wants to play big? I mean, he's playing back in his hometown in Baton Rouge, and he understands, this is his last merry-go-round in college football. Man, blocking those two cats, that to me is a big key. Can LSU's tackles at least slow them down to give Etling an opportunity to throw the football downfield accurately? Again, I'll say it. It's a lot easier said than done, and if anybody watched that Ole Miss game, Marquise Haynes in the first half of that game dominated LSU coming off the edge.
Mike Detillier talking LSU football, playing Bama this weekend. So do you think, is Fournette capable of having a big night, Mike, or is Bama just too good?
I think he's capable of having a big night, and I know one thing.
Decoy?
Great players get motivated by being humiliated.
Right.
He was humiliated last year. They could have took a team picture of Alabama's defense every time he touched the ball. I mean, every time he touched it, there were 5, 6, 7 guys around him. And just remember, he had the Heisman in his pocket last year before the Alabama game. That was his. And then all of a sudden, from that game and then the rest, up until the bowl game, LSU's offensive line could not block anybody. They were so predictable, and the chaos involving Les Miles. So I know Leonard well enough. I've known him since he was 12, 13 years old. I know what makes him tick. And I'm telling you, he's not a real happy camper about what happened last year, and he realizes the dynamics are totally different, and he's healthier now. He's had 2 weeks to come back off of the ankle injury, which had slowed him down. And Archie Manning and I were talking. We did an event for Thibodeau Regional Medical Center last week, and he was like, Mike, if he was 75%, I'd hate to see what the hell he'd have done against Ole Miss if he was 90 or 100.
Archie compared him to
284 yards.
No kidding. Archie compared him to Jim Brown, didn't he, Mike?
Yeah, we were asked. We had a 30-minute kind of roundtable, and people asked me, who's the highest-rated running back you've ever done, and it's still going to be Bo Jackson with me. Bo still will have that top spot, but Leonard will be in the number 2 spot, and so there's a lot of comparisons out there with different backs. He does remind me a lot of Bo Jackson in a lot of ways. Archie then took it and said, you know what? He said, I could see where you're coming from there with Bo, and I've heard Herschel Walker, Eric Dickerson, but he said, you know what? It's Jim Brown. And Jim Brown, he said, as far as he's concerned, and I think most people would agree, he was the greatest running back in the National Football League. He said, the big difference is today defenses are a lot faster, a lot stronger, a lot quicker to the ball carrier than they were back in the 50s, early 60s. But he said, his style of running, his foot speed to pull away, his power skills, and, his competitiveness, just like Jim. I mean, I'm just telling you, Bo, if he were a linebacker, he'd be the best linebacker at LSU. If he were a strong safety, he'd be the best strong safety at LSU. If he ran track, he'd be the best 100-meter guy they have. He'd be the anchor on the 4x400 meter relay team. He is so competitive as an athlete that drives him to be the type player he is. And even despite the fact he's not fully healthy, I think that time off really lit his flame, that he's going to show everybody just how good he is. This is a showcase game, and he's going up against the very best defense in college football today.
Out of bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. He is Mike Detillier, LSU insider, talking Bama and LSU and Leonard Fournette. Mike, don't you think that he can have almost as big of an impact in the game, not only when he's running it and catching it out of the backfield, but as a decoy for that LSU offense, too, to open up some other guys?
I would think so. I think one of the things you may see, and I'm not letting the cat out the bag here, is, and they did a little of it against Ole Miss, is having him and Geis in the backfield at the same time and using one to be kind of put in motion, and then you've got to be able to cover either Darius or him. Now, all I know is Babe's background. It was at SC and how they used Reggie Bush as a little bit of a decoy sometimes with Lindell White and also as a receiver coming out of the backfield. And Ed's talked to me a lot about that, he learned a lot about offensive mind, so to speak, starting at SC and seeing what Sarkisian and Kiffin did, along with Child there, and how they used those two backs. And he's very complimentary of what he learned under Lane Kiffin at Tennessee and also at USC. And from the passing standpoint, it's been Sean Payton when his 1 year with the Saints. So I do think that what you're going to try to see is them utilize as many weapons as they can. But the bottom line is they've got to be able to protect Etling from the edge pass rush. And I think that is worrisome for any team that goes up against Alabama. Are your tackles good enough to block Allen and Williams when they come off the edge? That's a major question mark, even for LSU, as good as they've played up front. And I think it's been the most improved part of LSU's team from game one till today has been their offensive line play. But they haven't played any tandem as good as these two guys.
Mike Detillier talking LSU and Bama on the New Belgium Fat Tire Hotline. Mike, we'll wrap it up with this. Is LSU capable, and Aranda, that defense, are they capable of rattling Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they have a little package set in place where what they want to do is sort of the same idea that John Chavis Chief did with Johnny Manziel. They do not want him to break containment. They want to cup him in the pocket and basically say, you know what, if you beat us from throwing the ball accurately from in the pocket, but we're not going to let you scramble around and make plays with your feet. And that's something that Jalen does extremely well. He's a much more mature guy than a freshman playing. But eventually, and I said this last week, I got an old coach, 50 years in the NFL, live across the street from me, and he said, Mike, I'm telling you, I've been around a lot of freshman quarterback and a lot of rookie quarterbacks in the NFL. Eventually, they roll that car up against the cement wall. Now, will it be this week? I don't know, but I do think the game plan, and LSU had great success, better success than anybody, going up against Manziel and A&M, was to cup him in the pocket and basically force him to make those throws from in that cup itself and not from running left and right and making big plays with his feet. I think that's the key for LSU. Can they do that up against Jalen and force him to be accurate throwing that short medium pass downfield?
Mike, next week we'll talk Butch Jones and Rocky Top and what's going on with Tennessee. And
I got you. That ain't good.
No.
You know what? It almost looks a lot like what happened last year with Les.
Yes.
Very much the same way.
Yeah. Mike Detillier, LSU insider on the New Belgium Fat Tire Hotline. Mike, I know y'all are going to have a blast this week and this weekend. We appreciate you. Talk to you next week.
Thanks a lot, Bo.